This video is brought to you by Sweetwater. Being a guitar player nowadays might require some other additional tools than before. Of course, there's nothing wrong with just owning your instrument. I mean, that is what it's all about. But a lot of us are interested in recording ourselves when we play the guitar, film it, edit it, and put it on the internet. So coming from a guy who has been doing that for over 10 years, I'm going to show you the gear and setup that I recommend for all of this. So you can upload yourself playing the guitar on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and get all the likes and love and maybe a tiny bit of hate, because that's a part of it. When people ask me about my studio, they ask, is it a recording studio or is it a film studio? Well, it is sort of something in between. I have everything I need here to be creative the way I like. It's really a rehearsal space with internet, sometimes at least, filled with all the tools that I need. And first and foremost, that is my instruments. Most of them are here, some are back home or in storage. I try to keep them at a minimal to only keep the ones that I will use and the ones that gives me something different than the other ones. Mostly guitars, but some basses, a lap steel, and a MIDI keyboard. Then there's my pedals. My go-to pedals are here in my rack. These are the ones that I use the most, but I also have a few in here and up here. I try to keep everything as close as possible. I hate when I have to spend too much time finding something when I'm trying to be creative. And next thing, and this is really important, you'll need something to plug those instruments and pedals into. An amp. And I do have a few of those as well. You know, those old ones with tubes inside and they're really loud and you get tinnitus from using them. Yes, those, and I really love them all. But I would say that I'm more and more drawn towards more silent solutions, those that don't cause that much air bleeds. It is just quicker, more convenient. You get the same results more or less each time. I can use those old amps into my 2-Notes Torpedo, which is a load box and cab sim and IR thingy. I got this many years ago and I've used it a lot up and through the years. And it was one of the main reasons to why I started a YouTube channel. I could use my real amps to record silent inside a small flat with neighbors on all sides. But most of the time now I just use my Milkman, the amp stereo, or my Camper. In the Camper I have my own profiles of those old amps and the Milkman is just solid every time. I do also have a Line 6 HX Stomp that can be used for the same purpose. The market is just full of good silent amp solutions. I haven't tried them all, but I really like the ones that I have. So after any amp you will need an audio interface. I have the Audient ID44 with 4 channels. Before that I had several 2-channel interfaces, but last year I figured that there are too many situations where I need more than 2 channels. 2 mics, close miking an amp for example, and 1 in the room. I do drums sometimes, that requires more than 2 channel in most cases, maybe even more than 4. But that works for me. So this was all the more conventional home studio essentials, but the modern guitar player needs exposure. We want to show our skills or lack of skills to the world, and the first thing you need then is a camera. In many cases you can use your phone for that. Most phone cameras are pretty decent right now. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of them, but they do definitely work if you can't afford a mirrorless camera, for example. But getting an entry-level mirrorless camera with a good lens will do a lot for your image quality, in my opinion. I use one from Fuji, the X-H2S, and I also have my cinema camera, which is not entry-level at all. But if you learn how to use a camera and learn lighting, you have come a long way, baby. One of the things that Sweetwater sent my way to sponsor this video was 2 Nanlite pavo tubes. And these are my favorite type of lights that I have ever used. And I've actually used them for a long time. Sweetwater just sent me the second version of the pavo tubes, which has some nice upgrades, like the lock function, for example. With the first gen version, I was always changing the settings with bumping into the controls on the side. And you can use these for basically everything. I've used them on commercial shoots and of course for a lot of YouTube videos. And here is a setup using just 2 tubes and some practical lights inside my studio. If you want those colors in the background that you often see on YouTube videos, these are fantastic for that. You can use an app to control them. Also an upgrade from the first gen version of the pavo tubes. And I'm lighting myself and the guitar with a tube as well. And this talking head situation right now is 1 tube there and 1 in the back. And here's a little secret hack for you. When using a tube as your key light, that means your main source of light for your face, for example, buy some pool noodles or tube insulation to put around the tubes. Be sure to get them in white, and that will soften the light even more from the tubes, and you will look prettier and get more likes on TikTok. Another thing that is really important when filming yourself is to monitor what you are doing when filming. Unless you have a friend that is filming you or your mom is doing it, you'll need to see what you are doing. So I recommend getting a good monitor for your camera setup, or it doesn't really have to be that good, just have one. For many years I used that flip out screen on the camera and it's just impossible to see anything on those. So get a monitor, doesn't have to be a cinema grade one. And this is more of a luxury item that I really can't recommend enough. A wireless video transmitter for that monitor. Oh man, I've been wanting to get one of these for a long time, and Sweetwater sent me the Axoon CineView SE to test out for this video, so I'm using that right now. You place 1 unit on your camera, HDMI or SDI into that, and the other unit on your monitor, and that is it. And man, it is so freeing when you are working alone and framing yourself and moving around to find the right spot to sit in. I'm still not ready to go wireless for my guitar signal, but for video,
consider me wireless from now on.
And if you need to do some talking to the camera, you will need a mic. I have a couple of different lav mics from Sennheiser that I use, and some different options for shotgun mics that I can place on my cameras. And if you use a lav mic, don't hold the lav mic. I mean, come on. It is like buying sliced bread only to glue the bread back together. It doesn't make sense at all. The lav mics are created to be placed like on you, and you're not supposed to hold them. I see so many creators do that now, and it's impossible to understand why they are doing that. Why are they doing that? And then it's probably time to do some post work. I do everything on my MacBook M1 Max. It is a beast. I do use Logic on that Mac for audio, and I've always been happy with Logic. I have these Dyne Audio Lead 7 studio monitors that I use for mixing and for video editing. Always been happy with those as well. I have one cheap video monitor on the side just for some extra work real estate, and I have a more expensive calibrated monitor on top that I use to color correct and grade my videos. I use Blackmagic DaVinci Resolve for editing my videos and for color grading. I have the studio version that you have to pay money for, but there's also a free version that works really well. Most musicians or producers have a DAW that they prefer, and now of course you need to decide what NLE you want to use for creating videos. In my experience, most of them are good. It's more about what you are used to. I mean, I could use Premiere or Final Cut. I could also use Pro Tools instead of Logic. It will just take me some time to get used to it. So you can use everything. And now You just need to find out what content you want to create with all of this. Just doing it is more important than what you use, and you being able to communicate something with your instrument is of course way more important than how you do it. But these were some tools that hopefully can help you on the way. Good luck!